According to Mark Gurman, Apple is expected to release 5 new Macs next year, so let's get into that. I'm iCaveDave and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you, and if you want the latest Apple leaks, news and rumours every weekday at 12 UTC, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring my bell. So here we go. Mark is expecting 5 new Macs in 2022, a high-end iMac, a significant MacBook Air update with M2, an updated Mac Mini, a new entry-level MacBook Pro, and the new Mac Pro. So let's take these one at a time. First of all, the new iMac. This is pretty much expected. It's going to be the larger version. It's going to be the one that sits above the 24-inch iMac that we have right now. And it's probably going to come with M1 Pro and M1 Max options. Now, we have had rumours that it might be containing an M1 Max Duo as well, which would be a super high-end version. Unclear whether that's actually going to happen on this generation or if that will wait until the M2 generation, but we will find out. MacBook Air we've covered at length. This is the M2 version. This is going to have a complete redesign, new body shape, mini LED display, so an XDR display, possibly a notch, possibly not a notch, but white most likely, and all of the colours that you would expect from an iMac. That means that this will be harking back to the original iBooks, the clamshells, which were the colourful ones that came out at about the same time as the G3 iMacs, which is that iconic, brightly coloured, clear iMac that we had right at the beginning. Mac Mini as well, we've been expecting for some time. We have seen a redesign for this. We've seen renders via John Prosser. We've had some done as well via Apple Tomorrow, who is our render boy of choice. And this is, again, most likely to take the same chips as the iMac, so you would be getting an M2 version and also an M1 Pro / M1 Max version. The new design, though, does show the same power connector as the iMacs, which means it's most likely to have an external power brick, just like the new iMac. And then let's skip over the MacBook Pro just for a moment, because that's actually the really interesting one. We've also got that Mac Pro coming. That one is going to be the absolute beast with 2 or 4 M1 Pro or M1 Max chips inside, giving up to 128 GPU cores and up to 40 CPU cores. Pretty bonkers, and I can't wait to see how that thing performs. But the MacBook Pro, this is the one that we haven't been necessarily expecting, an entry-level version of the MacBook Pro, which I would guess will mean it's going to get the same redesign, it's going to get the 14-inch size, it's going to get the mini LED display, it's going to get all of those ports that you wanted, but with an M2 inside rather than an M1 or an M1 Pro or an M1 Max. That gives them a lot more leeway with pricing, and I would guess that we're going to be looking at $14.99 for this. Yes, it's going to be more expensive than the current entry-level MacBook Pro, but it's going to have that incredible display, it's going to have all the ports, it's going to have probably insane battery life if it's going to have an M2, which is designed to be that more power-efficient, energy-sipping chip. But the reason that this is still a MacBook Pro rather than being a MacBook Air is that it is going to be chunkier and have all of those extra ports. Now, honestly, I'm not sure if this is a great idea or not, but if Apple thinks that they need to have a Pro at that price point, because we know that a lot of people love to have the flex of having a MacBook Pro rather than a MacBook Air, I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with it. $1,500, so it's a little bit more expensive, sits right in the middle there, and then you've got 3 distinct steps. You've got $1,500 for the M2 version, $2,000 for the M1 Pro 14-inch, and then $2,500 for the 16-inch model. To me, that just makes a lot of sense in terms of the way that Apple likes to structure their pricing, but again, it will remain to be seen. But I do think that this will probably come out at the same time as that MacBook Air with its redesign too. So let me know your thoughts on those. Just before we get into iCave answers, I want to do a shout out to the Patreons. We'll put their names up at the end as usual. But also over the weekend, I had a nice little surprise and met this guy. Don't know if any of you guys are into Marvel, but that's Loki. That's Tom Hiddleston, absolute delight of a guy, and one of the most generous people with his time that I've honestly ever met. He popped into the green room at the theatre just purely to come and say hello to the people that were working there. Introduce himself. Hello, I'm Tom. You know, not as if nobody would have known. You know, just wandered in. Hello, I'm Tom. Stood and had a chat with us for 5 or 10 minutes, and then wandered off to carry on with his day. So, absolute gentleman. Thank you, Tom Hiddleston, for being a legend. But let's get into some of your iCave answers. We're going to smash through them all in one show today. Levi Manning asks, when is MacBook M2 Air coming out? Release date? I still think we're going to see this in March. I think we're going to see our March event with the new iMacs and with the MacBook M2 Air. So I think we'll probably get a 24-inch iMac with M2. I think we'll get the larger iMac with M1 Pro. And I think we'll get the new Mac Minis as well, all in March. Next up, NH asks, not Apple related, but Tesla related. iCave answers, with Cybertruck being a wishlist item for yourself, have you seen the Tesla Cyberquad? The $1,900 kid-sized quad. Any thoughts on general intersection of technology and transportation and the impact over the next few years? And yes, that Cyberquad was announced with the Cybertruck. It's pretty much like a little ATV that you can drive onto the back of the Cybertruck, take it where you need to, and drive it around. So I think, yeah, I don't see the Cyberquad being something that's really going to make a massive impact in terms of transport. I think it's more of a little toy. And yeah, whether it's going to be for kids or not, I don't know. Quad bikes can be pretty dangerous. But technology and its impact over the next few years, I mean, the car industry has been one of the worst hit by the chip shortage right now because there's so much silicon that goes into cars these days. We're not even talking self-driving on these. We're just talking about fuel management and in-car entertainment and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's going to be a huge, huge change. But actually, there might be less chips in them once they become electric than there is right now, because there's a lot less stuff to manage. Lit8 asks, iCave answers, could Apple use the health sensors on the Apple Watch as a biometric? And that's a great question, because there's so many sensors built into your Apple Watch that it does make sense that there could be stuff in there that you can use for biometrics. However, you don't get something as unique, I guess, as a fingerprint, or not in the way that we think of it, like on the back of your arm where your Apple Watch would be sitting, and they don't always sit in exactly the same place. So that would be a bit tricky. Heart rate changes from time to time, so that's not something you could use. I'm not really sure what you would use. There may be something that could be done, but I think, to be completely honest, the fact that it's just attached to your wrist all the time is a pretty good indication that it's you. And just like when you turn on your iPhone for the first time after it's been switched off or not turned on for a long time, you have to put in a passcode regardless. So I think that's just a one-off thing when you put it on once a day, not really that bad. Brian Data asks, iCave answers, do you think that Apple will skip the M1 on the Duo and Quad machines and announce or release an M2 Quad and M2 Duo at WWDC 2022 or late 2022? I don't think they are going to skip it, and the main reason for that is that there is the silicon already built into the physical chips in order for these to be feasible. So I do think that we're going to see slightly older versions of the silicon going into these larger chip generations first, and then we will already see the newer stuff coming through with the lower power and the higher efficiency ready to take its place. So I think that's where the cycle is going to be. You're always going to be ahead of it on the efficiency chips, and especially on the iPhone chips, but the brute forcing of the number of cores is what is going to give the power. Len Adams asks, iCave answers, there's a new rumour from Gurman about the next iPad Pro having wired MagSafe 3. So what do you think? Now, I haven't seen a rumour from Mark Gurman about it being the wired, like, Mac-style MagSafe. All of the rumours, including from Mark Gurman that I've seen so far, have been that it's going to have a glass back for wireless charging, which means MagSafe Puck, which is the magnetic contactless version, if you like. So I haven't seen any of that. It could use a Mac-style MagSafe, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. Also from Len Adams, iCave answers, how do you feel about the Apple Search, Apple Video, and Apple Crypto? I mean, honestly, none of these things are things right now. I guess Apple Search was something that there were rumours around a little while ago that they would be building their own kind of Google rivaling search engine. Possible, but not necessarily a thing. Apple Video is like a YouTube competitor. If it is, it's not going to be great, I would guess, for creators, because in general Apple doesn't like doing all of the stuff around tracking people in terms of marketing, which means that the video ads are going to be less lucrative, which means that creators like me, if they were going to use that platform, would make less money. So that's a little bit awkward too. Apple Crypto, there's no indication that Apple's doing anything in crypto. They're definitely watching it. Tim Cook said this himself. I think an NFT wallet might be something that they add to Apple Wallet, and possibly a coin wallet as well. But we'll have to see. There's no doubt, though, that crypto is an important thing in the future of the internet. Len Adams also asks, iCave answers, what do you think about a 14-inch iPad Pro? I think we've covered larger iPads at length. I don't think there's really a need for them, but I know that a lot of people would like it. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. We can only wait and see on that one, really. But I really don't think there's a need for it. iCave answers, do you think that Apple Metaverse will have avatars as Memoji or Memoji people? I don't think we're going to have just floating heads, so yeah, probably full-on Memoji people. Choose your outfits, maybe there'll be App Store things where you can buy new outfits for them. I'm sure that kind of creator economy is going to happen. iCave answers, what do you think Home OS will work like? Is it even a thing given the job listings? Yeah, it's absolutely a thing, and I do think it's just going to be what brings together Apple TV OS and the HomePod software that we have right now. It's not called HomePod OS, that's not a thing. But yeah, I think it's just going to be like something that unifies it. I think that all of the home stuff, your Apple TV, your HomePods, is all going to be far more kind of Siri oriented. I think Apple TV remotes may well go away and we go over to a more Siri oriented system, and then you can use your iPhone or your iPad or your Apple Watch as a kind of backup using your hands remote. iCave answers, when is the real flexible glass by Corning coming out? It can be for the iPhone flip folds. I don't know. It really comes down to when is the technology ready, and to be honest, from all the foldables that I've seen so far, the technology isn't ready. I wouldn't want Apple to put something out that's as janky and as unreliable as the Fold, as the Galaxy Flips. All of that stuff just seems to be unfinished, not really ready for prime time. So I'm more than happy for Apple to wait until they've got a really good way of doing it, rather than kind of throwing something out there to be first, which there wouldn't be anyway now, so they might as well wait. But it does look like 2023 is the soonest that we could possibly expect a folding iPhone pad type thing. But that's it for this show, guys. Thank you to all my Patreons over here. If you'd like to join Patreon, patreon.com/iCaveDave or iCaveDave.com/Patreon. Both will work. And thank you to all these guys for supporting the show. Thank you to you, and we'll see you in the next one.